Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden on this beautiful day. Look at the back, it's clear blue skies. The phone does funny things. I don't know why the iPhone is doing it. Can somebody please tell me what the problem is? Am I doing something wrong, or is it just a thing with the iPhone and really good weather? I figured that in the past already a couple of times. Let me just walk you around a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to have any color in my face when the sun hits me now, but still, look at that weather. Isn't that amazing? Oh, look, Alfie is there with her stick. Like last video, when I was outside with you taking some cuttings, I gave her that big stick thinking like, oh, well, okay, she's going to lose interest in the blink of an eye. But no, that is her favorite stick right now. And she runs around with that like crazy, even through my border. And I was like, hyacinth, there are hyacinths. And then, but so far, everything survived. So maybe I should give her the smaller stick again. Let's see. Not for today's video, because what I want to do in today's video is I finally want to tackle the slope. So think most of the projects that I was longing to do here in the upper garden are pretty much done, and I'm really happy with that. And if you remember in my, I think it was a Potting Up Dahlia video, I told you that 3 raised beds were delivered on that day, and I was so excited about it. And before I could finally install them there, I really need to prepare that area on the slope, and this is exactly what I intend on doing on such a glorious day as today. So today's video will be a little bit of transplanting, cleaning up, putting this the support system for the slope in there again. And I haven't like tried to manicure anything there. Honestly, it looks as messy as it looked throughout the entire winter. So brace yourself for a very messy area there with pots and all different things of rubble lying around, kind of like a dump yard. I should be embarrassed, but I think every gardener knows that at one point of the year, days are short and you're just happy to get stuff done basically, and you just dump your stuff somewhere, and then you have the one area in the garden that is not looking nice, and that is my area of the garden. But before I show you, I quickly collect all of my things in the garden shed, and then we head back to the slope. Isn't she just so adorable with that stick? She's running around with that for the entire time already. And the second I try to grab it to play with her, she runs away with it. I could do that with her for the entire day and she wouldn't get tired of it, but we head all the way back there now. So come on, let's go to the slope. Alfie! For those of you who haven't seen all of my previous videos, I just quickly want to tell you how this property actually works. So I am gardening in a zone 7B in Poland, outside the city of Gdansk, right next to the Baltic Sea, which means that the climate here is heavily influenced by the seaside and nautical climate, basically. We have a very early spring this year, so I'm very happy about it. Very likely, I think last year it was still cold and frosty around this time of the year, but not this time, which is amazing, so I could get out in the garden way earlier. The property is kind of like long stretched out and on top of a dike, as you might see already a little bit. So it is completely flat on the top, and then towards the end there is a slope. And I started working and utilizing the slope starting last spring. So I built one side already with terraces, and this year I intend on growing all different kind of annuals and perennials and also my dahlias there, as kind of like a cut flower border garden in a way. And the other side is the area that I'm working at right now. This is at a stage of transformation still. And I'm also building these terraces, and I will utilize that area only for fruit and vegetable production. And what I want to do now is flip the phone, talk you through and show you exactly what I intend on doing in today's video. This is how we enter the slope from the garden basically, and you can tell it really opens up the landscape here. It's all farmland and then just hedgerows, absolutely beautiful. And the hedgerows, you have a lot of wildlife in there. We have pheasants nesting in there. Every now and then you can hear them, and they're sometimes even flying out of the hedgerows into the garden. Beautiful. So if you swing to the left, you see beautiful weather and a lot of mulch actually right now, because I had a lot of perennials growing in here. And last year I grew my vegetable at the bottom layer of the slope. So this is the area that I will dedicate only to like cut flowers and beautiful things of the year. And then my lovely bench. I love to sit here, especially now starting at this time of the year already, because the sun really hits it in the late afternoon. So you could really enjoy the last bit of the day with a cup of tea or coffee there. And if I swing around, you get to see there's like a little fence section that I built together with you guys. And here are the terraces in the area that I will use as my vegetable garden this year. So I showed you already how I built that terrace here. There is an area, where is it? Here. It sank down a little bit. So after all the snow basically melt, it started to just set down a little bit, and I put more support system here along the entire side to make sure that it's really safe and sound and stable, and put some extra beams in there as well. So this is something I always need to have an eye on. The last layer, what I did here, so this is where I want to grow all of my pumpkin vines. I put a lot of the cuttings in there just to fill it up, kind of start building it a little bit like a raised bed. And then here is a top layer, and this is the area that I want to focus on in today's video. I think, yeah, I just go from this side here to show you what I do. So in the front row, I've grown some bearded iris, and I absolutely love bearded iris. And I had a momentum where I thought, okay, just order a lot of them, which I did, just to see which ones I love. And there are a lot of beautiful varieties in here, unfortunately not labeled, so I have no idea how they're going to come to flower. Some of them are also in pots, so I think the ones that are in pots I intend on keeping in pots just for this year, and everything that is in ground I will transplant to the other side of the slope. Then I have hazels growing in here, and this is the one thing that worries me a little bit. I've cut it back hard with you in one of my previous videos in autumn, and I tried to lift the hazels. Like this one is like a normal hazel, so I kind of want to get rid of it, to be honest. There is another one here, and that is a red hazel, which is beautiful. So I tried to lift that one and transplant it. Then I have this area here where I have a couple of more bearded iris. There are very dark ones and white ones. Some are like almost black and the other ones are pure white. Beautiful. I think the black ones are towards this side and the white ones are over there, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, now comes the embarrassing part. Alfie's not the embarrassing part. She has great fun in there, actually. So we renovated the house, I think 2 years ago, the entire outside. And the lower deck used to be kind of more like a terrace with a banister or railing all the way around it. And these are some of the last bits of that railing. So I'm not quite sure what to do with that. I need to see. I just put it here because I thought it's still like good wood and maybe there's an opportunity to do something with that. Then I have all of my pots basically. A lot of stuff that I just threw here. So I think I just need to organize it mainly and just see what I want to keep. One thing that really surprised me, like, this shows how much bearded iris love the area and how tough they are. These were just kind of like divisions from last year where I thought, oh, okay, I had so many, I don't really need them. So I just threw them in a bucket and they sat in this bucket for the entire winter, completely exposed, like not even buried in soil or anything. You can tell we had a little bit of frost during the night, so there's still a little frost here. And they look good. They start sprouting. So I'm like, okay, I can't. If I see this, I'm like, I cannot throw them away. So I feel what I might do is maybe just like put them really down at the slope and just let them do their thing. And if they thrive, maybe they're nice for some cut flowers at one point. I need to see. So yeah, this is going to be a big part of the project, really trying to tidy up everything here. And then another big part of the project, you already see all of those beams here. And this is the starting point and some bamboo canes for the support system that I built. Because if we just walk down here, you see that on this side here, there is this black foil. And underneath it, there is a system that I built made of like a plastic mesh and some supporting beams. And you can tell that here there is nothing here. And at the corners, some of the soil already started to come down. So it's really a good momentum now to put the supporting system in, because then I want to put my 3 raised beds on this top layer here. Because you can tell there is a lot of sun here. It is southwest facing, which means that this will be perfect for growing fruit and vegetable. First thing I want to do is start transplanting the iris here and just see how they look. So what I do, obviously, is start digging them. And this is really easy. And as you could see, iris are very adaptable, at least in this area. And they are just really toughies. So this is all there is. Just come in with a garden shovel, lift them up. They are rhizomes. So I'm going to show you in a second how you plant them properly, to make sure that they are happy. Ooh, I'm not sure if they survived at all. It's a little squidgy. I need to see. This is a little iffy. The problem is that during winter, and I haven't thought really smart about it, is that the foil here, you can even see it blowing up now, it blew up and it was covering the corner here. So some of the rhizomes, they were covered for almost not a month, but like at least 2 to 3 weeks. But most of them really look good and they came back. Oh, see, even before I start dividing them, they start to fall apart themselves, which is not bad necessarily. There's another one here that also came off from that clump. That is perfect. All right, so I've got 3 different rhizomes. So now I'll find a good location on the other side of the slope and show you how to plant iris properly. When it comes to planting iris, there is just one thing that you really need to pay attention to, and this is, as Beth Chatter always said, right plant in the right place, because bearded iris, they want to bask in the sun and really grow in the fullest sun. So if you put them somewhere in double shade or even like partly shade, I don't think you're going to see a lot of flowers, probably not at all. And I think your iris at one point, it's just going to fizzle out. So this is, as you might already see, a very good area to grow any kind of bearded iris because it's basking in the sun. This is like west and south, so this is southwest facing, ideal. And even with the trees in the back, the trees, they are like kind of fizzling out, so they don't really produce a lot of shade in this area, not even throughout summer. So this is one good, nice sized iris, and before I plant it, the first thing I do is I'm going to divide it. This is how an entire rhizome that I lifted looks, and you get to see quite well the old and the new growth. So this here is the old growth of the rhizome, and clearly all of this here is the new growth. You get to see very easily, here you have fresh leaves appearing and even tiny little side buds. And you can also tell if you just look at it from the basal of the rhizome that all the new parts, they have strong, very fleshy, good looking roots, while here on the old part there are hardly any roots left. One here and just some old, almost like rotten one that you could just even strip off quite easily. So what you need to do is get rid of all the old part because this is no good. No flower, nothing is going to appear out of that anymore. Here on this flat part, this is where last year it produced its leaves and maybe potentially even a flower spike came out of here. But this year, nothing is going to happen. So what you want to do is just get in and basically break it off like this. And you see what you're left with is a quite nice, good sized rhizome. 2 side shoots here. I don't know what happened here. This is something, it's not really mushy. This is still all right though. So this can go into the ground now. And I'm going to do it with all the rest of the rhizome as well. So here I have this part here where I can see that there is, I hope you see it, a tiny little bud appearing. So I will break it off here. And this looks really good because here I have a lot of good, healthy, strong looking roots, perfect. And now I'm even left with, this is a little tricky now. So breaking it off, there is this tiny bud sitting here. I think I might give it a go and also break this one off because I think this is going to build a rhizome. It has strong roots, it has a shoot. And then there are also these tiny shoots on either side. So what I can do now is come in, perfect, and just break it off. So I have 4 pieces coming out of this one rhizome, and this is the old bit where nothing good is really going to come out of this anymore. So this can go straight onto the compost heap. Such a nice and strong looking rhizome, and I want to show you now how to plant it properly. So when you plant it, make sure that the rhizome, which is this, is facing southwest direction because the leaves come out like this in a fan shape, and I don't want that these leaves are going to block any sun that could hit the rhizome because this needs to sit and bask in the sun. So southwest is that direction, so I should make sure that the rhizome faces this direction and absolutely not that direction because that would be northeastern. What I do is just prepare the area. Everything is mulched in heavily because I really want to suppress weeds in here. And what you do is quite easy. Okay, I've got a lot of mulch in here. You basically dig 2 trenches. And I don't even lift the soil literally. I just come in with my little garden shovel and make sure that it just pierce in here. Just like this. So you have 2 nice sized trenches. Then you look at your rhizome, oh, no mulch. You look at your rhizome and you look at the roots. Those roots are not very long. They have the perfect size, and you see that there are a lot of tiny fibrous roots already appearing, which is absolutely wonderful. If the roots are very long and stringy, what you can do is come in with your scissors and just cut them. I would always say to a length like this, which is probably like 10 to 15 centimeters. Sometimes you really have iris that have absolutely long spaghetti kind of roots. So what I do is just separate the roots. So some of them are going to one side, some are facing to the other side. And just push them into these trenches here. And whoa! Make sure that the tripod doesn't collapse, obviously. And push them in here, like this, so that the rhizome sits on top of the soil, actually. You don't want to bury this, because this needs to be exposed to the full sun. What I do now is just push some of the soil back in. Firm it in nicely. What you can do as well is put some starting fertilizer in. Like normally I would always use some organic bone chips. The iris, they thrive so well here that I normally don't really do it. They're just very happy. All that an iris normally, like bearded iris at least, requires is full sun, and this is all there is to it. So here you go. It really sits above the soil level. All of the roots are buried nicely. So all that I need to do now is push my mulch back, and in a way to make sure that the rhizome is always exposed. The mulch should absolutely not cover the rhizome at all. And this is all there is to it. What I'm going to do now is get my hands on and just really transplant all of my iris up there. I put quite some nice iris here, even though I have no idea what color they will be. And the thing is that I do have a general planting scheme for this slope actually this year, with really where I want to put annuals and the perennials that I'm just growing from seed indoor, and I don't want to make it look all crazy and wacky again. And I realized digging up all of my iris how many rhizomes I actually have. And what I want to do now is put most of them actually into pots. And this is what I want to show you, how to pot up some iris, because the lovely thing about it is that some of them came to flower last year in the pots. And obviously someone forgot to mark what color they actually were, which is not so smart now. But I hope a lot of them will actually come to bloom this year again, because then I could just position those pots exactly where I want to have them. Because I know that there are some in a peachy color, which would be perfect for the slope. And some are in this like pink rose tone. There were really beautiful varieties, and they could go into the upper garden. Because I have some areas where I actually want to introduce some bearded iris or some different bearded iris to what I'm growing there. And I feel this is just a good idea, and it really gives me the opportunity to see what colors I have and then find just the perfect location for those iris. I'm going to prepare a little bit of a potting mix for the iris because pretty similar to tulips, they want to have good drainage. Iris really love to have two things, which is full sun and a poor soil. And this is why I love them, because they're so not fuzzy and they always reward you with wonderful foliage and amazing blooms in an array of color. So all I do is I have a multi-purpose gardening soil and I like to mix it up in my wheelbarrow, because here I have a good control over what I'm doing. And then I use some sand, because sand always gives you good drainage. And I can't really tell you like a recipe or anything for it. This is more like a general feeling of when you go in with your hands on how it looks nice and feels nice. So just mix it under with the hands. And now I will also sprinkle some hands of organic bone chips in here, just as like a long-term fertilizer for them to make sure that they're really, really happy in there. And this is all I do. Gonna mix it up, make sure that it has a good drainage, and then fill it into pots and start potting up the iris. I've made myself comfortable here and prepared everything. So I've got my bucket full of iris, I've got some pots, my potting mix is also ready. And this is always a good reason on why you should keep these pots from whatever you buy in the garden center, especially if you buy multiple plants in the same size of pot, because I'm very happy that I have these. They are from Panacetum Red Hat. So all I do, scoop in a little bit of soil and then select a rhizome. And you can tell I've got an entire bucket full of rhizomes here. So I really believe that potting them up is the best thing I could possibly do now, because then I can just find a really lovely sunny location for them where they can bask in the sun, do their thing, enjoy their life, come to flower, and then I can really find just the perfect location for them in the garden or at the slope. And I can also find the perfect stick for you, can I not? Here it is, I think. There you go. She's still in a play mood. Can you believe it? I could play with Alfie 24/7 and she wouldn't be tired of it, but I love it. So just select a rhizome, and pretty much the exact same one applies to when you plant it out in the landscape. This is a rhizome that I want to plant in a pot, and you can tell pretty much the same would apply to what I just showed you before. This is the old rhizome, and then you got two new here and even smaller ones forming at the side here. But since I pot them up, I will actually put the entire thing in now, because I don't want to end up with 2 billion pots. And all I do is literally just check the roots again, how long they are. This is a little long. I don't have my scissors now with me, so I can also just snip it off with my fingers and then just check the roots. Is there anything mushy? Is there anything not looking good? You can just like see this comes off naturally, so this is not good. This should definitely go, and this is what you should do. And it's always easy to tell. These are like the thick, white, fleshy, good roots. They are perfect. And all I do now is I don't do the trench business or anything with a pot. I just try and position it in the pot, and then I come in with my shovel with a prepared potting mix and just scoop it in from all sides all the way around, and try and make sure that the roots are not in one clump. This is also important here, so that the roots are a little separate. Firm it in nicely, just like that. A little more soil. So it's nice and covered from all the sides, all the way around. Now I can firm it in, and you can see the rhizome sits on top. And to firm it down even better, and also as a layer of protection, I like to put grit on top of it. I don't have a lot of grit left, unfortunately. I checked the other day in the hardware store, and they didn't have it right now. Oh, this is really lousy now. Better than nothing. But yeah, I really need to go to the hardware store and find more grit. So normally this is also a good thing, because the grit is kind of like another way of mulching it and another layer of protection. And then the rhizome really sits nice on top. This is what I want to have. This is the look. And this is exactly what I'm going to do with my entire bucket full of bearded iris rhizomes now. You guys, I think that is it for today's video, because I will just focus on potting up the last of them iris, and then I'll call it a day and go inside, because it is already late afternoon by now. It was a beautiful day in the garden though, and I'd really love to take you with me in the garden. And I think this is going to be part one of how I transform the top layer of the slope. I might call it something like, I don't know, transplanting, dividing and planting bearded iris. How about that? Alfie's already very impatient. She's kind of like running around me right now with her stick. Can you see her? There she is. She always looks cute and innocent, but trust me, she can be anything but. She definitely has a temper every now and then, like a little polar bear almost. There she is, with her stick. And she does not want to release it then. It's like, I could do this with her for the entire day. So yeah, I hope you could take something inspiring out of today's video. And maybe I could even encourage you of trying to grow your own bearded iris in your own garden if you're not growing them already anyways. I'm definitely going to show you how they look once they come to flower here. And if I find the right location for those that are growing in the pots, obviously as well, I'm really excited about that. And I would love to welcome you for part 2 of my video when I tackle the rest of the slope, preparing it for the raised beds, and then at one point put the raised beds together and position them. This is actually the most exciting part of it. Up until then, hope you have a wonderful day, guys. Take care. Bye.